The Democratic National Committee is asking for a do-over. The Credentials Committee of the DNC voted tonight to reject the internal party vote that made David Hogg a party vice chair, ruling that the election had not followed proper procedures. This decision, which came after roughly 3 hours of debate and one-time vote, will put the issue before the full body of the DNC. It must decide whether or not to force Hogg and a second vice chair, Malcolm Kenyatta, to run again in another election later this year.
This is David Hogg, and he is known for as many things as there are picometers in his biceps. This kid is what happens when an FBI father knocks down the doors of the local special ed classroom and goes on a genetic shooting spree. Yes, most of those embryos weren't viable, and half were stolen by Dennis Nedry. But for all those failed attempts at breeding a deep state super soldier, there would inevitably be one that survived past the pupa stage. It's just a numbers game. Look at me all sciencing and shit. And that pig chrysalis burst into a beautiful and fully developed hog in the form of the youngest DNC vice chairman in Democrat Party history. There's just one problem. Voting, or democracy, is a real threat to our democracy. After winning the election for DNC vice chair back in February, the brave Stoneman Douglas high school shooting survivor because he wasn't actually at the school, has gone on a spree of his own, taking to the late-night anus-tonguing competition known as Bill Maher to declare war on the generation of crusty old Democrats standing in the way of quote-unquote progress. This is a problem for the entrenched Democrat elite, so they busted out the old how to deal with Bernie Sanders playbook and just straight up voided his free and fair election to vice chair one more time because it's just so fucking funny. On February 1st, David Hogg was elected to the position of DNC vice chair. Yes, he's a white male, but check out how fucking gay he looks. Earthang's gonna be all white. All right, Earthang's gonna be all right. And then it's not. Piglet McStick Arms breaks from the status quo and starts targeting the left-wing Ent class, just straight up axing species of Pelosi that have been around since the first reptile was like, hey, check out this hair. Let's just go ahead and pterodactyl in this shit. And this immediately ruffled said ancient feathers, which we know dinosaurs did indeed have. This all checks out so far. We are sciencing. And now we're suddenly and rather horrifically in the Empire Strikes backstage of the Retar Wars infighting trilogy. All the lumbering old Star Destroyers are circling the rebellion on planet Hogg and slowly bringing to bear the sights of the great metaphorical world-ending penis cannon of complete reputation obliteration right onto the tiny, backward-sloping forehead of the intergalactic toothpick bench-pressing champion. Which is probably why the DNC looks like it's going to do exactly what it's going to do. End David Hogg's career.
There have been a few members that have come out that have said, well, you know, if I retire, my life is effectively over. And what I would say is, get over yourself. This isn't about you. Exactly. This is about our country, and it's about your constituents. Nobody is I don't care if you've been there for decades or just one term. That seat is not yours. It is your constituents. That is who you're there to serve. And if they choose to serve somebody else, so be it. That's all we're trying to do with Leaders We Deserve, is give people the option to vote for somebody that isn't necessarily the same person that's been there forever.
And Bill, let me applaud one thing. I'm glad that David is at the table. You know, I've been at the table a long time, and I love being at the table because it took me a hell of a long time to get in and to get a seat. And once I got a seat and got my folding chair, I was ready. I was set. And there comes a day when you can't stir every pot, and you're going to have to get the out. And I'm glad that David is throwing a rock inside the party. All I would like to advise David is my 25-year-old March on Washington, King Holiday, Free Nelson Mandela self. Call me what the hell you please, but I know what I did when I was his age. I wanted to have a role in American politics. I want to care about my country, I want to love my country, and I want to give back what my country gave to me. And if David takes that spirit on the DNC, I'll vote for his ass again.
Hey, you're not going to believe this, but the committee that voted to void Hogg's election to DNC vice chair is headed by Christine Pelosi, daughter of the one true fossil itself, Nancy. So let's just skip over the whole fact that a Pelosi is internally positioned to overrule and overturn any and all DNC elections and go straight to her attempt at an explanation for the election rigging that Democrats definitely aren't known for. Quote, first, I want to say clearly and explicitly that this decision has nothing to do with the service of any DNC officer, especially David Hogg or Malcolm Kenyatta. This is about a violation of parliamentary procedure that was raised in a challenge filed back in February by another candidate for vice chair. Here is the backstory. The DNC held elections for our officers on February 1st. The last officers to be elected were for 3 at-large vice chairs. The DNC has gender balance provisions, as does the RNC. We elected Artie Blanco with a clear majority. Then we had to elect a male vice chair and a vice chair of any gender. The DNC members voted for those last 2 spots on a combined ballot. Malcolm Kenyatta and David Hogg both exceeded the majority threshold, and so they were elected. After the election, one of the vice chair candidates, Kaylin Free, raised the challenge that combining those last 2 ballots violated the rules of procedure for the vote. That's what we, the DNC Credentials Committee, met to discuss tonight. We dug into the details and found both sides of the arguments compelling. I propose that despite the alleged errors, that we vote to uphold the elections with a recommendation that in the future we either vote one position at a time or vote for all 3 positions at once. That vote was 9-9, so more debate was needed to reach consensus. Ultimately, the Credentials Committee voted on a resolution that recommends that the DNC complete the vice chair election and administer new ballots for the final 2 vice chair positions. Only 5 candidates qualified to run for the 3rd vice chair ballot on February 1st. Malcolm Kenyatta, David Hogg, Jenna Rapace, Kaylin Free, and Shasti Conrad will be eligible to run now. Next step, the full DNC membership takes a vote on our Credentials Committee report. Meanwhile, Malcolm Kenyatta and David Hogg continue to serve as DNC vice chairs, and I think I speak for all of us on the committee when I say I hope both of these talented individuals put their names on the ballot again. We'll move fast to get this resolved. I have total faith in our DNC members to review this issue and vote their conscience. As always, connect with me with any comments or questions. I'll respond as quickly as I can, but not tonight, because I am 100% focused on the fate of Dub Nation. Go Warriors! Christine Pelosi, end quote. Put more succinctly, David Hogg was recommended to have his election as DNC vice chair voided because his selection allegedly violated a DNC rule requiring gender diversity among party officers. The DNC Credentials Committee, headed by Christine Pelosi, found that his election to vice chair was in conflict with the DNC's efforts to achieve a more gender-balanced leadership structure. The specific details of how his selection specifically violated the rule are not detailed, but the outcome of the recommendation was that his election was to be voided. I've seen this movie before. Democrats create ambiguous rules that can in turn be charitably interpreted to pursue a desired outcome. In this case, that outcome appears to be no men! An angel hair for arms is still too much testosterone for the party of inclusion. That's it for today. I'm John Ward, and until next time, remember, you're a world champion. Don't let your memes be dreams.
All of my sexual fantasies involve handcuffs.
Holy fucking shit, this fucking timeline is lit.